So, hey, welcome back to the Aerospace Executive Podcast. I'm really happy to have Michael Schader with me. Michael is the CEO of Nowsight up in Alexandria, Virginia. Nowsight is a data intelligence company. It's on the software side of the business, and he's helping basically companies, understand the data that they're collecting, how to use it, and how to get better from it. So, Michael, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Craig.
So talk about Nowsight a little bit. Tell us about what you're doing up there. And I know you're big into warehouse distribution, pharmaceuticals, a lot of other industries, and you just got your PhD as well. So let's tell us what you're doing up there.
Yeah, I got a few things going on. So with Nowsight, we've for about going on 10 years, we've been working to help companies of all different shapes and sizes to make better decisions using the data they already have. I think there's a bunch of both structural and cultural reasons why the getting actionable intelligence from all of your systems is much harder than it's supposed to be, or than people think it's going to be. And that's really what we've specialized on, is how with the smallest amount of cost and effort can we help companies focus on what really matters and move the needle using information they already have that is scattered or unusable.
How are you doing that? I know, obviously you got big, you got the big ERP systems out there, the SAPs of the world, the Oracles, et cetera. And then you've got smaller, you've got some smaller ERPs. How are you bringing all this? How are you bringing all this, data together?
Yeah. So, really, the foundation of the challenge there, it's the fact that in the real world, every large company has critical data in a wide variety of systems. Whether all those systems were put in place organically over a bunch of years, or they were cobbled together because the company grew through acquisitions, or even if a company has totally bought into a single stack like a NetSuite or an SAP, they've still got these issues of the lack of interoperability at the business logic layer. I think over the last several decades, for a long time, things got steadily easier, right? Relational database in the 80s made it much more possible to interconnect systems and speak a common data level language. And then APIs helped in a way, or between that, in the 90s, web technology made it easier to actually do the kind of the communications, the linking layer. And then APIs built upon that and had success in certain niches, but really at the semantic level of what do things mean and what is our common idea of what is a sale or a goal or a part, that progress has really stalled from my perspective, and it's because there isn't any perfect answer to it. Any standards bodies tend to flip because they need to accommodate everybody, and even for something pretty focused and defined, like a sale or a part, is so different across different industries or across different companies that getting that kind of commonality is still pretty much a pipe dream. And then there's business reasons why software vendors don't really want their stuff to interoperate too well. They want you to buy their add-ons, not to have it be trivially easy for you to assemble a best-of-breed system of systems. Mm-hmm. So our approach on it is we attack it in several different layers. Most importantly, though, is what you're actually trying to accomplish, of helping some clients come to us knowing exactly what they want to solve. They just don't have the ability to make it happen. Others, it's a bit vaguer. They just know that they could be doing better. They could have better insight, but don't. And so we, using our in-house expertise, will help figure out, what's the actual point of leverage? What are the handful of metrics that most matter, or the parts of your processes that are, whether it's sales or manufacturing or distribution, what's the bottleneck, right? What is really holding you back? And then find a way to just, laser focus on that. then the data side, is all just in service of that, right? There's no reason to even do any, capture or manipulate data except in the service of solving those business problems. So we figure out exactly which pieces need to come together. Often there will be 2 or 3 separate silos that it turns out are the ones that have to come together. Maybe it is sales data from an accounting system crossed with something from a CRM and maybe something from manufacturing or something along those lines. Picking stats in a warehouse combined with profitability data on individual items. And so we synthesize that stuff together, and then we build reliable data pipelines and usable visualizations off of it. And that's how we really put all that stuff together and help you run your business properly.
What's the biggest challenge people what's the biggest challenge people are, obviously, in today's world, you can have all the data in the world. People drown in data. What's the biggest, where do they come when they're banging on your door saying, Michael, help us? What are the biggest challenges you see businesses having right now?
I think the two, as far as the kind of the eternal challenge with it, the 2 baskets are, one's on the business leadership side of building that clarity of what you need to know to get to where you're trying to go. That is, it is difficult. Some companies do great at it. An awful lot of them, though, it's hard enough just keeping the lights on, running now, dealing with customer and staff turnover and that sort of thing. And it can be very difficult to see the forest for the trees when you are embedded in all of that. And then the other set is in even for the occasional company that does have a good grip on that and they can envision what they want, but it's so hard to make it happen. Whether it's companies with well-established IT departments, often they'll do a great job with maintaining, as in keeping things going the way that they are. But it's often difficult to get them to knit pieces together. The individual vendors are often not very helpful, just because, again, it's not really in their interest to make it easy to communicate amongst all these amongst different systems to bring it together. So it's kind of a reach exceeding their grasp sort of situation. So I think those are the two main kinds of challenges that we see on it. As far as kind of recent or current events, there are certainly whole swaths of trouble that have been shifted or reduced by the big the migration to cloud hosted everything, and that helps with there's a whole bundle of data center management issues that most companies are no longer having to really worry about. But on the other hand, you replace those old problems with new problems around cloud security, around cost management, and so on. And it's the centralization in that space within cloud infrastructure, with really AWS dominating, and then Azure and Google Cloud as kind of secondary players in it, but still it is quite centralized there, and so you're kind of at their mercy if you don't really dedicate the staff and experience to managing it. And of course, the big one now is this application of generative AI, all these exciting new capabilities with GPT and Bard and Llama and the cousins in there. Is anyone who tells you they know exactly how this will unfold over the next 5 years or the next 2 years, well, they're lying. They don't really know. No one really knows quite how it's going. Just that it is going to change so many things. But I think the biggest application of that, at least from the areas that we work in, or the kind of work we do, is it's going to starting to provide superpowers for technologists and business leaders who stick with it and get smart about it. It's there's certainly an aspect of reducing labor or getting by with fewer employees, but I think each savings there is swapped out by, your competitors. They're hiring smart people to actually orchestrate all of this stuff that now can be done automatically. And if you've only taken it as a cost savings opportunity, then you're going to get beat.
So how's AI going to affect it? How's AI going to move into the data management space? You talk about, and how is it going to move into the logistics, the supply chain? I take it Nowsight is probably big on the e-commerce. I mean, I got to think that your e-commerce companies, are banging on your door trying to figure out inventory levels.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
SKU profitability, et cetera.
so. Artificial intelligence in general, in the last 6 months, suddenly everyone has started to use that, meaning just the brand new, the large language model approaches. But it's a longstanding joke in computer science that artificial intelligence is defined as what computers don't do yet. That every time or that AI, less comically, or AI as the research arm of CS, that when approaches and technologies are developed from the artificial intelligence research side, as they get adopted, they stop being considered AI, and then people complain that AI has failed. But so many things, relational databases, object-oriented programming, web services, interoperability, those things all came out of AI, the AI side of things, the semantic web, all those started as, the web itself, of course, all those things started as an AI research that came on. So the one that is fully embedded, or the most recent one, I guess, over the last 5 years, maybe, to get fully embedded, it's the machine learning side of stuff, that there is such effective ways to look at historical data and to find the patterns on it, and then look at what's coming in every second and make good projections off of it. That's certainly been transformative in those spheres that you were saying. So that's already happened, right? That's table stakes now. Right. The exciting, the frontier with the blossoming of the large language models, ChatGPT and such, it's the way to easily work with totally unstructured data, with text. I mean, as humans, we do send each other spreadsheets, but mostly we talk and write and email. And to be able to open all of that up for machine comprehension is an amazing opportunity. Whether it's the summarizing, the pulling out of salient points, finding logical holes in an argument. Of being able to generate or to work as an assistant. It's like I often compare it to having, you've got a room full of very smart interns in college majors in whatever thing you're looking at. Is it biology? Is it law? Anything? And they can't figure out what to do on their own, but man, they can sit there 24 hours a day doing it. So what kind of things would you do if you had such a staff? Like, you don't just set them loose and expect great things. You have to orchestrate what they're doing and check their work and carefully craft what you tell them to do. But you do get this for a marginal cost approaching zero.
So is AI going to be, look, everybody's scared of AI right now. I tell you turn on the news, AI could do this, and it's going to be diabolical. And, I'm like, people adapt. People have adapted throughout history to new technologies. Is AI going to be the diabolical, thing that everybody thinks it's going to be? Is it going to be a big yawn? Is it going to be somewhere in between? What's, how is AI, how are we going to use it moving forward?
Certainly a great question. I think so. What's funny is that we've had years of exciting science fiction and action movies where usually the evil AI is embodied, like a Terminator. Sometimes it's sometimes it's vaguer than that, like HAL in 2001. But one way, each of those are I believe, they're missing the boat, especially the Terminator robot kind of one. Right. I think AI in those areas is it's evolutionary, as in it is being able to have tools or weapons that are more capable than the ones before them, to have somewhat better ways to orchestrate and predict and coordinate coordinate things. But I think those exciting movie-styled threats are mostly not realistic. The fictional comparison I've been running with is we'll think about the ship's computer on the Enterprise in Star Trek. The ship's computer, it doesn't even have a name, right? It's not a person. Right. We don't treat it as a character usually in most of the episodes. It's just always there, and it pretty much knows everything that humans know, and it can think things through really fast, and you can interact with it very naturally, usually by talking, which is helpful for television or the movie, but is also in real life is potentially really practical to be able to talk to it however you want to. And so I think that the Enterprise ship's computer is really a great example of, that's what we in the collective technologist sense, that's what we're working to build. And that's what we get steadily closer to, is this always available unpersonified assistant who can help us do stuff and who has instant access to all the things that we wish we knew or could remember, and is also can go beyond just reciting answers, but also create stuff, give advice, assess things, and most importantly, critically, speaking to us literally in our own language, right? Of our voice interaction or emailed exchanges and that sort of thing. So that's the main thing we're trying to build. And then the way to come up to think, consider the dangers of that. The biggest thing is, well, okay, you can go find episodes in which the ship's computer goes rogue or gets taken over or develops its own agenda. Those are things to think about over the longer run, as some people are. But that kind of stuff is just not a next year or next couple of years kind of threat. The threat right now is for bad actor humans to use these tools to manipulate other people. So in that way, this is just the whole problems from over 10 years of social media. It's those problems, are they squared? They're certainly made a lot worse. Is it a step change? Are they exponentially worse? I'm not sure about that. It's same as the room of interns who can help you with stuff. Well, it is also the same as your room of 10 cents a day workers who churn out chats or trick people into sending their life savings, that sort of stuff. So the automation of that's huge. But
I remember 20 years ago, a guy sitting in a cubicle, with headphones in, just inputting data into spreadsheets, and they probably paid him $10 an hour. Now you can take a picture of the spreadsheet and just throw it in, and it's done, right? And you've got the data. You just you take a picture of it. The banks. I know banks have been using AI for or machine learning for quite a long time, in their back office stuff. So it's one of those things where. But coming back to the data side, are companies just drowning in the data? Are they just are they unable to use it? Or what's going to be the future of, hey, look, here's how to unlock and visualize what you have to be able to and use it in a productive format?
Well, I think there's an old saying in IT that's been updated based on technology every 10 years or so, but something along the lines of the structure of your database or your web page or your system architecture mirrors the structure of your organization. That this is just the truism that pretty much always works out that way, where if you have 6 departments, you tend to end up with 6 different subsets, 6 different data lakes or 6 different databases, 6 different ERP systems. It's just the natural tendency of how, as we organize as best we can as humans, and so we end up projecting that onto the systems that we build. And that right there causes the interoperability problems that we touched on earlier, where you've got no way to bring together picking and stocking with sales profitability, because those people don't even know each other, right? They're different sorts of people doing very different jobs. They have built different systems or bought them from different vendors, and you've got that huge split. So I wouldn't say drowning in data. Certainly, executives are often drowning in reporting, And that's the big thing when I've heard pitches from for Power BI or other BI like visualization tool kind of competitors. What they'll brag about, or the case studies they'll quote, will be, within a month of starting with us, the CEO had 40 new reports, as in new reports being pushed to him daily. Like, that sounds awful. That's the last thing I want, is to have yet more stuff coming in. So I think that's where the drowning happens, right? It's not the organization, it's the individuals, especially the ones with important decisions to make, who often end up getting this huge array of stuff that is tangential to what they really need.
What are your clients? What are they telling you? What's the most important data? I mean, if they had to knock it down to three things, what do they want to know? I got to tell you, SKUs, profitability per SKU, time to ship. What are they looking at?
Those are certainly big ones right there. There are aspects of it that are universal, like exactly those. But there are also ones, often there's at least an element of it that is totally specific, right, to the situation there. Maybe it's there's this one piece where we always had this one employee maintain that cross-referenced list and they're gone. And we've got to figure out what to do with that. Or the number of SKUs, as we've expanded, it's just gotten unmanageable and we no longer have a good grip on how it fits together. But really, it's that crossing of the lines, I think is the tough one. I mean, to take a stocking versus profitability aspect on it. Well, in theory, you would allocate effort based upon, well, what's most important to keep in stock, and by important we mean profitable as of right now, right? Not theoretically, but rather the client, who you're shipping to this afternoon. And yet that's very hard. It's very hard to do system-wise because the tools don't accommodate all those things together. So that's the kind of stuff that we've been pulling together.
Right.
Another one on a manufacturing example where we're working with a client that they're extremely smart people, and engineering centric or organization, been around for a long time, doing a great job, except that they just haven't knitted together their production pipeline with the customer relationship side of things. And so what we're building out for them is to pull together that data about, here's the pricing and the terms and the expected delivery dates, and to cross that with, what's actually getting shipped out and what's the sequencing in there. And once we snip through all that, suddenly it exposes all these inefficiencies, places where they are, doing great work to hit a deadline for a tiny client, while letting another one sit there for an extra couple of weeks unnecessarily. One that is, 10 times bigger deal that's causing much more harm to the relationship, and it's just because neither system is built to help you think that way. Again, that's our specialty.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that's got to be interesting, using you come back, you're like, all right, who is my most profitable customer? Who is my most unprofitable customer? Mm-hmm. I think about the guy who used to sell to Starbucks, who 80% of his business was Starbucks. And he found out he was losing money on every Starbucks sale. He fired Starbucks and his profits went up dramatically. His revenue went down, but his profits went up. And you think about the amount of, the amount of data management. How does that happen in today's world?
Yes, I think another piece that there's a real that we've concentrated on, that there's a real art to, is a lot of the time the insights that a leader is looking for. It isn't about how to fine tune a machine or something like that. Those things are actually are fairly well covered. It's how does a sales leader properly motivate and incentivize the sales force? How does a production line manager get the technicians to take care of the right things in the timely fashion and to defer the things that don't need to be done right now, that sort of stuff. So that's where the way I mentioned at the beginning, our kind of our three-layered approach and the integration amongst those layers is so critical, right? It's the answering the right questions with the right data and providing those answers with the right visualization and delivery, whether we're texting you every time the line goes down, or we're sending you a daily email that is formatted to pop right up on your phone with the critical stats that you need to worry about. It's that integration that is so key. And again, that's another thing that makes it so hard, because those are different specialties. A few individuals actually have experience across those areas, and few companies are good at all of those things, right? You naturally tend to specialize in one. And then we're back to our original problem, which is the client company that is trying to solve problems has to then do this synthesis. It's exactly the thing that they don't know how to do either.
Do you find that, do you find that industries are pretty much data? Yeah, every industry has the same problems with the data they're gathering?
That's a fascinating question. I think the answer is yes. I mean, one of the things that's been most fun for me in doing this has been getting to dive pretty deep into, certainly half a dozen or more rather different industries, pharmaceutical, med device, media intelligence, warehousing, manufacturing, and certainly at there are aspects that are all the same, and then you go deeper and like, wow, these are very different worlds, and they vary based upon level of regulation and how shoot from the hip versus careful thought through of a culture is it in that industry. But under the hood, as you're getting to, I think it ends up being very similar. Fundamentally, it's that challenge of identifying the real bottlenecks on what actually matters, translating it into motivation for whatever sort of people. I mean, the salespeople tend to be motivated differently from engineers, motivated differently from warehouse pickers. But there's an awful lot of commonality in there under the hood. Yes, you got to deliver the right modality, the right messaging. But ultimately, that's the common challenge is turning all that data into how can you get people to do what you want them to do.
So how much of it, I hear all the time, I'm a data-driven leader. I'm like, yeah, okay. Are you really? How many of them are really data-driven, and how much are emotionally? How many of them will look at the data that's right in front of them and go, yeah, but the data's telling me this, but I'm going to go do something else.
Well, I'd say, of our clients, pretty much 100% of them are actually looking at the data, but that's what they were thinking about in the first place and why they brought us in. I think out in the world at large, I think there's an awful lot in the mushy middle or of doing just that most human of things, which is to intuitively or emotionally decide and then go looking for facts to support it. Certainly, that's been my experience in government and the military. That was certainly a common theme.
So, do you work? I mean, are you integrating with the big ERP systems and bringing them all together?
We work with SAP, with NetSuite, with other ones along those lines. Yeah,
and then you're identifying the gaps identifying the gaps where they may be missing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mentioned before about, there's the most common situation. You have a lot of different systems because of history or best of breed or whatever. But even the companies that are bought in on a single one will often, there'll be business incentives for that vendor to not do the things you're looking for. We did a bunch of work with a pharmaceutical, contract manufacturer of pharmaceuticals, and they have had a spiffy accounting, top of the line accounting system that did absolutely everything. But it didn't answer the reports it didn't provide the reports that the CFO specifically needed. And part of it was they had a somewhat unique or unusual business model. Part of it was they were doing some rather sophisticated, from a financial perspective, some sophisticated ways in which they were slicing and dicing the different aspects of the business. But ultimately, there was it wasn't supported out of the box. They talked to consultants, all said, "Nah, there's no way to do that." But we did it.
Gotcha. So yeah, so there's still a lot of big gaps. What's the trend? What's the future here? I mean, you just got your PhD and you get in drone swarming. Is that right?
Swarm robotics. So it's my stuff is on how do you get big groups of rather simple robots to do complicated things that useful things, not just make a swarm or make a flock or make a shape, but rather to do a sequence of steps like building a house.
And how is all that? And what's the future? What's the future behold on all? Obviously, what you're doing with Nowsight and how your PhD in the swarm robotics. How do those integrate? What do you see the future looking like?
Well, I think I guess I was going to say for me or for the world at large, but actually I can answer at the same time. I think the integration of these different trends and technologies is just going to accelerate exponentially. The combination of just as miniaturization of computing drove the development of cell phones, which then tied to the improved telecommunications, which then means everyone is connected all the time. But it also means then every car, every tractor, every aircraft can also all be connected all the time on the same nets. And then you layer in the autonomous decision making ability that we are getting better and better at creating, with the language models being a key part of that, but certainly not the only one. Then I think all these things feed in together. I was just reading the other day about an autonomous basically a robotic construction system, a giant tractor that can lay out a field of solar panels 10 times faster than like a team of 20 people would be doing. It just goes out there, it bashes holes in the ground, it sticks in the poles, another piece of it lays the solar panels on top of it, and it can do that. And then just think about the kind of the flywheel effects of all that. If it becomes so much faster and cheaper to put out those solar arrays, well, then you can have all this additional power collection, which is of course great from a bunch of climate change and emissions perspectives. But even aside from that, you've also accomplished some decentralization. You're no longer vulnerable to centralized outages, whether through human activity or natural accident. You have so made things so much more resilient, and then this opens up all kinds of further possibilities no one's thought of. So all these things feeding on each other. I think that's the biggest trend, and that's certainly the set of things that I've aimed my own.
Is it evolutionary or revolutionary technology? I look at cars talking to each other, insurance, because cars can talk to each other, accident rates go down, insurance rates go down. Who becomes
right.
The winner?
It's an interesting one. I think this current blast of AI activity around the language models, that's revolutionary. Just as mobile, as in everybody having a smartphone, and internet before that, and PC before that. I think this is certainly in that category of revolutionary change, and I think it's not certain yet, but most likely it also this new AI is also it's in the ballpark with electrification and industrialization, those kind of general purpose technologies, as they're sometimes called.
So the swarm robotics with the artificial intelligence and machine learning, there's a lot of revolutionary stuff coming down the pike. It's exciting times. How do people get a hold of you, Michael?
Let's see. We are up at www.nowsight.com, where you can see some of our case studies and interesting stuff that we're doing. And I'm Michael at nowsight.com, ready to talk to anyone.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. I want to have you back on because I want to talk about drone swarming and robotic technology in our next conversation.
Oh, the really fun stuff. That would be great, Craig.
Cool, Michael. Hey, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed the latest edition of the Aerospace Executive Podcast. You can reach out to me directly, Craig at NorthstarESG.com, or check us out at www.northstaresg.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, or on YouTube. Just do a search for Aerospace Executive Podcast. Thanks again. I'm Craig Piven.